everybody, my name is Jo and I love to read. Today I'm going to be doing my November and December reading wrap up. The first book I finished in November, or the first comic I suppose I should say, is Monstress Volume 1 by Majorie and Takeda. I'm really trying to get a lot better at naming people who do comics and graphic novels and manga as well, because I feel like they're not as known as fiction books, and for me I've always been pretty good at being able to recall the name of fiction book authors because I tend to pay enough attention to them, so I'm really wanting to do the same thing and show the same level of respect for these other more illustrative versions of media. Monstress is one that is a comic that I think is talked about a lot on BookTube. I'm not in the realm of ComicTube, so I don't know if that's what it's called, because I'm not super diving head deep into comics. I get a little bit overwhelmed with that idea because what I mostly hear about comics is superheroes a lot of the time, and I know that it's not true. Absolutely not true. They're not just superheroes, but that dominates the majority of the, I suppose, popular comics. So it's a bit kind of overwhelming for me because I just have no interest in reading about superheroes. I don't even really like watching superhero stuff. It's just, I don't know, it's just not something that super appeals to me. So I'm really, as I'm sort of diversifying a bit more and going from just fiction to also branching out into non-fiction, comics, graphic novels, mangas, I do want to hear about more comics that are not superhero ones, so I thought Monstress would be a good option. Sadly, I'm not as enamored with it as everybody else seems to be on BookTube, but I'm just going to rewind a sec and tell you guys what it's about at the start. Definitely for this one, if you have triggers, go check out the trigger warnings on the StoryGraph. I'm trying to mention that at the start of each of my wrap-ups because I don't talk about triggers in my wrap-ups, but I think that's a really good thing to do. I personally don't feel like I know enough about triggers to encompass them a lot, so I would rather just refer everybody, go and check out the book on the StoryGraph. It has a comprehensive list of triggers there. I'm going to be reading off my phone my description that I have come up with whilst I was reading it, because I find the information in this book, it feels very slippery to my brain. It feels like I'm trying to hold on to a jellyfish or a piece of jelly or something like that, and it just keeps slipping out no matter how hard I try. The Monstress story starts off with a humanoid arcanic named Maker who has been sold to a group of witch nuns called the Kumea. Arcanics appear to be creatures, some of which look humanoid but will often have differences from humans, such as a wolf head. The main character, however, Maker, looks 100% human except her left arm has been amputated. I'm not really going to mention anything more than that because I really wish I had done a reading vlog, which I'd intended to do when I first purchased this last October, not last October, the October before, to read it for Halloween, and didn't actually get to it until this Halloween. A reading vlog would have been so cool, and if you're reading this for the first time, I would highly, and you do that kind of thing, I would highly recommend doing a reading vlog, because a spoilery one as well, because there are so many details packed into this book and it is such a mystery. I don't even want to talk about any more of it, even if I could remember, because I feel like it's a spoiler. Any more than that is a massive spoiler, and it's just such a complex book, and I think that's why I find it very slippery. But I don't know if it's to do also potentially with the writing of these two magnificent ladies, because at the end of each chapter there's a little cat professor who tells you history about the world, pretending as if he's doing a lecture to the, or in the story he's doing a lecture to the crowd, but it's like a little side section, and I found that page so difficult to keep in my head. I would have to read multiple text bubbles over and over again just to keep it in my brain. So that was very difficult for me, and I don't know if it's something to do with their writing style or how complex the world is or anything like that, but it was a very hard book for me to keep all in my head. I don't know whether I'm going to continue with this series or not. I was really hoping to love it, and I just liked it. It was interesting, it was puzzling, but I'm just really not sure what I'm going to do. I didn't even put it on my Christmas list this year because often with these kinds of things I'll ask for them for Christmas because they're a bit more expensive, and I put Saga on there but I didn't put this, so I don't really know. I'm going to keep it and sit with it for a bit, maybe I'll pick up the next volume for Halloween again and give it another shot with the second volume, because I do wonder with comics, maybe because I'm getting used to the medium and potentially I'm going to enjoy it a lot more, but I just, yeah, it didn't super connect with me straight away, even though I think the art style is gorgeous. So we'll see. Maybe it's not for me, or maybe I just need to get into it a bit more. I'm going to sit with my feelings and decide from there. The next book that I finished is The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. I loved this book. It was really good. A bit sad, the overall tone of it, which is interesting because I did a quick YouTube short about it making me cry. So I think it's the fourth book to make me cry, third or fourth, something like that. And I generally get really excited when a book makes me cry, because I thought for so many years that books could never make me cry, and it just turns out I hadn't been reading ones that hit me in the feels enough. So I read this one. It was fantastic. My uncle bought it for me for Christmas the previous year, so I decided that I definitely needed to read it before this year. We had a nice chat about it at Christmas yesterday, because I'm filming this on Christmas Eve. He also loaned me another book that is a fiction, but it's based on a real historical figure that is not in this book, but sort of about the same subject. So that'll be coming up in my TBR video. Pretty excited about that. But I loved it. I annotated it. See all my annotations. Mostly just underlines, but I actually did have a lot of thoughts with this. It's funny, the more I annotate, the more thoughts I have when I'm reading books. I think this is a coming of age story. It does span the entire life of Esme. She is not real, but it is based, the author has worked it into the story so that she is among other historical figures. It's surrounding the creation of the Oxford English Dictionary, starting in the early 1900s. It has lots of other themes about women's rights and suffrages and the pressures that society puts on you. The main part with Esme is that she is a girl who has grown up in a building. I call it a building. It's a garden shed, but it's called the Scriptorium. And it's where for the Oxford Dictionary they would get these slips posted in from the general public with words that they're suggesting should be added, with potential definitions and quotations where they've seen the words before. So Esme has grown up living underneath this, visiting underneath this table, because her dad works in the Scriptorium, but he's a widower. And so when she was younger, she was allowed to come in and just play quietly under the table. Some of the other men working there were nice, some not so much. And she was also raised a little bit by the, I don't know what to call her, the maid, I suppose, by the maid of the head of the Scriptorium, Dr. James Murray, who is a real person. She was raised by his maid as well. The women's rights part that comes into it is that as Esme grows older and starts to understand a bit more about words and starts to get out into society herself and hears some words, she goes and looks up to see whether they're going to be in the dictionary, and she finds out that there were some words that are not included up to the decisions of the editor of this Oxford English Dictionary, and she finds out that a lot of the words are related to women's experiences and words that women use, also words that are not used in polite company, but a lot of women's experiences, because they are not written down as much as men's, a lot of their words are missed. So that is the women's rights portion. There is so much more to this book than that though. It was really good. It does have a sad overtone at the end. It's not a sad book when you're reading it. A lot of stuff definitely does happen to Esme throughout her life that is sad, but the overall tone is not depressing, but at the end it was a bit sad. I was hoping for, I kind of predicted something that happens at the end, but it sort of just kind of cuts off. And I think that this is a worthwhile book to read if you're interested in this and you like historical fiction. But I feel like the author could have chosen a different way to make the ending a bit more cheerful, and because it wasn't even bittersweet, which is kind of what I feel like would have been good for a book at this time of the world. And I understand all the choices that the author makes, except for right at the end, I probably would have done something different. But anyways, it was still really worthwhile. I still really enjoyed it. Maybe based on all those thoughts that I didn't know I had until I did this wrap up, I might do an in-depth review about it, or just a spoilery review. But I also have a lot of videos planned for January to do all of the wrapping up stuff, so maybe we'll see. There's not really a time limit, I don't think, on reviews. Hey everybody, it's now a couple of days, or I think nearly a week into the future. I filmed the first bit on Boxing Day and now it is News Day. That's crazy. I thought that I was done with reading for the year, or that I wasn't ever going to finish what I was currently reading, let alone also finishing off something else. I filmed it earlier because we went away to stay with one of Danielle's cousins for an entire week, but because I was reading Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets MinaLima edition, I thought, oh no, it'll take me the rest of the time to finish that up. It'll, you know, I won't have anything really to talk about. I did end up finishing it, but way earlier, and I actually fitted something else in. But to talk about this one briefly first, the illustrations were gorgeous, as MinaLima's ones always are. I'm just going to see if I can pull one out for you guys. I have my tabby tabs at the top of my favourites. Oh, here's a gorgeous one that us book lovers will like. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's the library at Hogwarts, and then there's a little like purple curtain to the restricted section. They're so beautiful. I still want to do a video showing my top 5 or 7 drawings, but I'm just worried that I don't have the skill to properly portray it. I would really love to do filming like this over it, but I just don't know if I have, like, filming like this over it, but I just don't know if I have the skills to set the camera up that way. Anyway, so I'll have a Google, maybe I do, and I just haven't thought of it yet. I had a really good time reading The Chamber of Secrets. I really want to jump straight into the third one and just keep going and just get all the way to the end as well, when the books start to get really complex too, because there's something about The Chamber of Secrets. It's the fact that my favourite book, it's a toss-up between Half-Blood Prince and Goblet of Fire. Those are my 2 favourites at the moment, and reading Chamber of Secrets reminds me of Tom Riddle Voldemort, which then reminds me of the Half-Blood Prince, and where we spend all of that time learning about Voldemort as a kid and how he ends up becoming the evil wizard that he is in the present time with this. As for the story itself, it was pretty enjoyable. The main complaint that I have with this one is the fact that the entire Slytherin house is looked down upon. I know Harry has a bit of a crisis about feeling that he should have put in Slytherin, and that because of the story it's thought to be quite a negative trait for him because of the Parseltongue and the fact that the heir of Slytherin is coming back and attacking all of these mudbloods. I understand that, but then I feel like there was this part where either Dumbledore or the Sorting Hat, where Harry is confessing sort of towards the end his feelings about being sad about being potentially in Slytherin. He's like, well, the only reason I'm in Gryffindor is because I chose it. And I like the message there that he did choose that himself, so he must be a Gryffindor at heart, and having the courage to say that kind of thing makes you think Gryffindor. But I just wish that, especially Dumbledore, maybe not so much the Sorting Hat himself, but I wish Dumbledore as like a good mentor could have said, you know that not every Slytherin is a bad person, because my biggest complaint with this series is that Slytherin House and everybody in Slytherin are looked at as the bad ones, and I just feel like it has absolute like racial undertones in it. That may be the wrong word that I'm using to describe it, but I just always think you're judging an entire group literally just based on the fact that bad witches and wizards have come out of it. And I'm sure that there are bad witches and wizards from every house. And I'm sure that there are good Slytherins. Horace Slughorn of all people, he's Slytherin and he's the good guy, even though he's done some cowardly things. But still, he's a good guy. He's not bad. And it just really frustrates me that I wish Dumbledore had said something, and I wish that maybe Harry could have befriended someone in later books, or even with the whole stuff that Draco Malfoy ends up being sort of good or a bit neutral, that they could have even, I don't know, drawn that connection. Because even right at the end of Deathly Hallows, where little Albus, so Harry and Ginny's son that they named Albus Severus, is like, oh my god, what if I'm in Slytherin? And I can't actually remember, so maybe Harry says something then to refute it. I'm sure someone could probably tell me in the comments if they watch this video and know. But I feel like as well, And probably especially because of the movie and the conversation can't be as long, but I feel like Harry just goes, oh, you can ask it not to be in Slytherin and it'll be fine. And the fact that the whole entire Cursed Child play is based on the fact that Albus goes into Slytherin and then doesn't feel like he belongs anymore just makes me think, far out, could we have not... Why does being in Slytherin equate to such badness? It frustrates me to no ends, and if Miles ends up reading this series one day, I am going to have to explain that to him and use it as a lesson that even most favourite books that if they end up being his favourite, but even the most enjoyable books can have negative things in it. So there's my soapbox rant, because I have one final book that I wanted to talk about now, and I read this one on my Kindle. I really wanted to try and get a couple of books finished because I'm in the middle of a few at the moment, and particularly I was in the middle of Chamber of Secrets, I was in the middle of a non-fiction learning about the Islamic faith, but I just wasn't in the mood to read that one after Harry Potter. It was almost, you know how sometimes you need such a change that it's good to read something so different, but then also on the flip side sometimes you are so happy in the world that you've just been in that you can't be too different from what you've done. So I just really wasn't in the mood to read that book. But was also partway through the second Trixie Belden book by Julie Campbell, The Red Trailer Mysteries. That's what I ended up finishing. I probably wouldn't have pushed to finish it if I didn't know how many pages that it had or how long it would take to read. Pre-Baby Joe would have been able to read it really quickly, really easily, but I did not. And then also we had friends over last night for New Year's. I went to bed at 10:30 because I have a baby now. He doesn't care that I was up late in the morning. As it was, I got to sleep in anyways because I fed him at about 7ish, put him back to bed, and I got up, or no, I think I fed him at 7, hung out with him for a bit, and then he really wanted to go back to sleep, and then I did too, so I went back to sleep, and then when he got up the second time, Daniel was up, and I ended up then sleeping for another couple hours until like 10:30. It was great. It was so good. Hey Baby Joe probably would have had time to read the Red Trailer Mystery and get it done, but today I really had to push to get it done, and it was probably only the fact that I delayed this video to include it and get it done. So I'm gonna lie slightly on my StoryGraph stats and say that I finished it yesterday so that it will come in the yearly stats, because that's what I'm counting it for. I'm really excited to be able to get into a new book now. I think I'm going to read one of the Avatar graphic novels now, so I'm super excited. But it just feels nice to now have 2 books that I was midway through and they're absolutely done. What did I think of the Red Trailer Mystery? Still a bit of a setup book. We're still... one of the main characters is still being established in this one. So it was better than the first, but still I'm a bit meh, so-so on what I'm going to do. There was definitely more mystery elements in this one, which was good. And there was actually a twist that I wasn't really expecting. I was trying to guess who a certain character was, and I ended up guessing wrong, and they were sort of someone else. So that was kind of cool that I was kept guessing in that regard, that I didn't know it. But I'm just holding my breath for maybe at least another 1, potentially 2, because I'm hoping now that this thing with one of the main characters has happened and been established completely now, that we will be able to concentrate properly on mysteries and not so much of a continuation of the establishment of the characters in the storyline. So hopefully the next book is going to be a bit more interesting, but I am probably going to have a really big break before I read the next one and probably pick it up physically instead of on ebook. My mum has the entire series, I'm pretty sure, if not nearly all of them, so that is my plan with that one. I didn't really mind it. It's probably, again, for like middle grade audiences or like lower young adult, like younger young adult, as opposed to me being an adult, but I'm still hoping that it's going to be interesting enough if I keep reading. So we shall see. Stay tuned for that. Now, thank you guys, everyone, so much for the wonderful year, spending so much time with all of you guys. Happy New Year. I hope you had a good time or are having a good time. I don't know when I'm going to get this up. It may already be New Year's for most of my viewers over in America and Canada. So anyways, it doesn't matter what time zone you're in. I just want to say Happy New Year, and I hope you've had a great reading year. I've got so many wonderful videos coming up with all the stats things. I'm still going to do once a week videos. I don't think I'm able to do more than that, even though I really want to, but I just don't want to push myself to doing it. And lately I'm feeling a bit still that lots of things are not done and I'm struggling to find time to write, which I actually did spend a lot of time writing while we were away, which was really fun and really good. but I just don't want to put any extra pressure on myself now that I feel like I'm almost at the point where I'm feeling done each day and that I do have time to write and read and still put out videos. So I'm not going to add an extra video to mess that up. But anyways, I can't wait to hear from all of you guys. Let me know how you have been going, how your holiday season has been going, and I can't wait for all of the end of the year wrap-ups, favourites, stats, content, and all of the goals for next year. So don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys in my next video, and have an awesome night/day. Bye!